world. Plant, animal begin to live, they grow, they become older, and finally they die. It's a universal fact among the organic being. So everything, every material being, living material being, and don't think about angel here, is called to death, to die. Beautiful flower, trees, sequoia can be last 1,000 years, but a day or another they will die. You know? That is the reality of in which we live, and we are concerned with that because we are in the same situation. Sometimes we have to reflect on that. In fact, that is one of the most important problems in the life of people, of men. Okay? So we cannot separate life and death. Of course, when the baby is born, we don't say that baby is condemned to death, to die. But in fact, as soon as we are born, we are condemned to die. A flower, a little kitty, that is. But we have to consider positively life as a gift and death as a reality also. So what is death? Death essentially is a change, but it is a substantial change. Substantial. So we change in our substance. The flower was living, you cut it to put it in front of the Blessed Sacrament, but the flower is killed. You kill the flower. It's a non-living flower. That flower cannot produce other flower, cannot grow. No, she's dead. But you know. But it's not a substantial change, but it's not an annihilation. That means something is not total disappearance. No, we continue. Something continues to subsist after that. For example, a tree, a flower, a dog, an animal, and then something continues. But we are body and soul. What continues after that? Two things. For example, let us take the case of a flower, and you cut the flower. The flower is no more living, but something subsists. What subsists? The matter. The mother was before, the mother continued after. You look at the Bible, you are dust, and you come back to dust. That means you are made with atoms, with carbon, etc., and you become again carbon. You know, but what is the big difference? In the flower, in the tree, in the cat, in the man. When we are living, we are organized. We have spontaneous, immanent activity. And when we are alive, we have no more activity. Activities are totally stopped. And in fact, the body of a flower, the body of a tree, the body of a cat is condemned to disappear, to be decomposed. Okay? So here with that, it ceased to be what it was, but it does not cease to be without qualification. That means it's not an absolute cessation of being. The flower, when it is cut, continue to be a flower for you. In fact, strictly speaking, it's no more a flower. It is a dead flower. It's a dead flower. You offer to God a dead flower. Okay. Something of what once lived continue to be. But continue to be substantially, it is other than it was. For example, my cat is living, my cat is dead. It's not the same cat, it's the same cat. It's not the same cat because one is living, the other is dead. But apparently it's the same mother. You know? But what is absent, what is no more there? The entelechy and the soul. The entelechy. The soul. And what is the role of the soul? Is to unify, to activate, to organize, to program, so that. And there is no more principle of organization, no more principle of movement or motion, etc. So number 2.2, that is a total and substantial change in organism. And you have 3 points. First, that is a term which is properly applied to living things. We cannot speak about the death of a stone. Of course, a stone for millions of years will be used little by little, but we don't speak about that because it was not a living. It is a total change. Secondly, two, when something living dies, there is a total cessation of life. So we studied just before all the characteristics of life. All those characteristics now do not exist. Stop. They are not there. Assimilation, reproduction, growth, all that is no more there. No self-activity, no spontaneous movement, no immanent activity. And so it is no longer organization, and no more activity. Three, the radical incapacity of performing vital operations, activities is the criteria. So we know that a person is dead, an animal is dead, when there is absolutely no more activities. Some question, when we die, for men, the beard continues to grow. So it's a vegetative life. Is the soul there? Well, I don't think so. So no more spontaneity. So that is radically incapable of performing any activity. The bear, when the bear is coming soon in his hole to spend the winter, to pass the winter, he is now trying to become very fat. And for 3 months, 4 months, he will live on that a reserve, and after that he will not resuscitate. He will raise again, but he's not dead. His activities are hibernation. His activities are slowed down. We can do that for people also. One of my uncle, he fell into coma, and it was in 1956, 57, and they were making experimentation. And my cousin is a physician, so they made the experiment to put him in the hibernation. So he was in hibernation for about 3 weeks. So that means they make his metabolism very going low. Instead, during that time, they find some mitigation. It was an experimentation, and after that, he came to life and like a bear. My mother told me that she went to the hospital, and to enter the room, they have to put their coat and their furs, and he was there almost naked on the table, hibernation. But bear don't die. We die when we have no more activity. A bear is continue to assimilate, like the squirrel. He assimilates, they graze, they acquire. Next page. A dead being is no longer a source, a center of self-movement. We saw that. And 2.5. The phenomenon of death is related to the body-soul dualism. In fact, why we can speak about death? Because we are made with matter and form. We are made with soul and body. And that is, we discussed just after that, the difficulty for monists to explain death. For us, it's easy to explain that. It is the separation, the division between the form and the matter, or the soul and the body. But if there is only one principle, matter, how can you explain death? Because if the soul is also matter, how matter can stop if it is matter? So that is a problem for them, because the way to explain that it is to accept the separation, a separation between a principle of life and a body. If everything is matter, it is a problem to explain that. It's so materialist monism, either materialist or spiritualist, both have difficulty to explain that. Because that is a separation, a division. If everything is matter, how to explain the division? And if everything is spirituality, only spirit, only mind, and the body is only an appearance, you remember the Gnostic at the beginning of the church, they deny that Jesus has a real body. It is one of the reasons why St. John in his gospel and in his letter insists so much on the humanity of Jesus, on his body. To prove yes, but it was not a fake body, it was not an appearance of body, it was a real body. Okay? So for monism, if everything is spiritual, so how we can explain that? That can explain only because there is a separation, a division. Okay, so I go to page 29. Now what is important for us is that position of moderist realism. We call also moderist dualist, because when we speak about moderate realism, you remember that, the theory of knowledge of Aristotle and St. Thomas. Now we apply that to death, and we have, it's like a moderate dualist. So the moderate dualist can give a consistent explanation of that, because that is seen as a separation, a division of two essential principles. Well, if you come back to the last classes we had on the human person, you remember the human person is a substantial hypostasis with a soul and body. We are one, but we have two substantial principles. We are one substance, but with two principles. The two principles are the soul and the body. So that is our essence. We are made essence, nature, substance. You remember, quiddity are almost the same reality, but seen at different point of view. It is the quiddity, remember in logic, but it is what it is, the whatness, what is that, what is it? Okay. For example, man is a rational animal with a genus and specific difference. What is the essence? In the essence, it is what is the thing, the same thing, but seen not at the level of logic, but at the level of metaphysics. And what is the central question, object of metaphysics? It is being. It is existence. So when we speak about the nature, what is man, at the level of metaphysics, we speak of essence. So we are man, human being, but we receive existence. And now if I speak about essence as principle of activities, I will call that nature. Nature is the essence as principle of activity. In that case, what is the essence of man? It is to be rational animal. So as an animal, I have activities. I eat, I sleep. And as a rational animal, I think, I will. So that is the essence, a principle of activity. In that nature, that essence or that quiddity exists. In that activity, there is many other, we call that the substance, the I, the substance. What is my I? It would be a rational animal. So when we die, what happens? That is the very difficult problem. Does my I disappear? Does my identity disappear? But that is the question we try to answer during this class, because it is the problem of the immortality of the soul. Do I stop existing when my essence is divided? When my body and soul are separated? When my soul is no more animating, organizing, programming, make my body active, does my soul disappear? And do I disappear? Or do I become mixed in the rest of the world? Huh? That is a great, great, great question. I think the most important is that here. The fact of death is just obvious. But after that, what happens? So we try to understand that. To understand that, we must understand that man is, the essence of man is to be made with soul and body. So we saw that. I insisted a lot, you remember, on the unity, of the unity of body and soul. And now, we lose that unity. Because at that, we lose the unity of body and soul. The body is no more your body, it is a trillion of cells. Huh? And if you pass through incarnation, in a few hours you become a few thousand and million of grain of dust. You know? So that is the question. We try to answer that now. In fact, the object of the class this morning is to answer that question here. Yes, Donald.
But Father, isn't the unity between body and soul only separated for a time? They're to be together?
Ah, good question. I cannot answer for the moment, but you will see. In fact, I can give the answer right now. The soul, what is the soul? We say the soul is to the body like the form to the matter. Okay? So it is the form of the body. It is the form of the body. The body is disappear. Disappear. Therefore, the soul continue to be the form of the body? Well, that is you have to prove the immortality of the soul. But if we prove, in fact, we already proved that, because every time we study, remember the activity of the intellect. I told you that is a proof of immortality, spirituality of the mind, and when we abstract, universalization, reflection, the power of the will over the body, all that proof that we are transcendent, we transcend our body. The name my soul is not dependent on matter. So we accept that. So we accept that the soul continues to exist as the form. But the form of a body, but there is no body. But continue the form to be the form of a body. And that, it is very interesting because it is a stone on which we can establish the dogma of resurrection. Plato cannot say that. For Plato, the body is a cave, is an obstacle for the soul to be happy. For Platonician, for those people, the body is not a good thing. What is a good thing is the mind. So the ideal of a man is to live without a body. But the resurrection, it is what it is. We come back to live a human life with a body. And the philosophy of Aristotle is I don't prove the resurrection. No, cannot prove. But it's a stone on which we can establish the resurrection. We come back on that. Okay. So I go to page 29. The separation of two essential principles that occurs when the life principle, the soul, no longer informs the body. That consists of the dissolution of my essence. That means I am no more a rational animal. My animality disappears. Can say, that question is tricky. Can I say that after that I am a human? A human being? No. I am a human soul. Because to be a human being, we must be body and soul. Okay? I continue. Then it is, in this view, that consists in the dissolution of the very essence. Okay. Number 4.3. The inner structure of the living thing consists within it the very seed of its own dissolution. That means the fact I am composed composed of a form and a body, form and matter. It is there, the seed and the root of my death is there. Angel cannot die. A stone cannot die. Only those who are made with form and matter, they can die. Because they are composed of matter and soul. And the fact they are composed, they can be decomposed. So the root of the root, if you want a philosophical point of view, of my death, it is in my essence. The fact that my essence is composed with body and soul. That means every being, material being composed with body and soul, is called to die. Well, of course, the Bible says God make us immortal at the beginning. But that is not philosophy. In philosophy, of course, God can create man without dying. He can do that. But we cannot explain that in philosophy. That is only pure revelation. But we can say in philosophy, the death, for a philosopher, that is not the consequence of sin. Excuse me. As a philosopher, is the consequence that I am composed with animality and, of course, in theology, we say God gave us immortality. After that, we commit a sin, and that is another thing. I don't deny that. Be careful. I don't deny that. No? But as a philosophical point of view, death is natural. It is natural for a flower to die. It's natural for a cow to die. It's natural for a man to die. It is in my nature. Why? Because my nature is composed. Because it is composed, it is called to be decomposed. You know? In fact, death is a natural reality. Death is a part of my nature. That is important to understand that. The death of your cat is a part of it. Birth, conception is a part of his nature, and that is a part of his nature. It is included in the fact there is a being composed of matter and soul, matter and form, or soul and body. Yes, brother?
Yeah. This is the first time that this class has contradicted what we learn in theology, because in theology we learn that death is actually not part of our nature. It's not supposed to be that way.
Okay. I shake my hat for the theology. In theology, we know that God created man, and he was not called to be that. He was a gift of God. Okay? And man committed sin, and that is a consequence of sin. But I can say, why not? Even if one man who was obtained the gift of immortality can die. Why he can die? Because he is composed. Because he is composed. His nature is to be composed. There is nothing in my nature to be eternal as a human being. Of course, my soul is different. Okay. You know, we must be careful. If we know the creation, etc., of man, etc., to the revelation, but a revelation does not destroy nature, human nature. So is the reason why, if that was not a part of my nature, God was not able to say, okay, you commit sin, you will die. I can die because I am composed. The source of my death is that it is in my own nature. Substantial composition of body and soul. Okay? So what I want to stress here, that is natural. Of course, for a Christian, for revelation, that is another dimension. But for a philosopher, it's natural. Okay? The soul cannot continue to provide life. The body structure is radically altered by age, etc., and lost its ability to be enlivened. It cannot be reanimated. And that is what is interesting. You know, a person is killed in an accident. We took his organ, his heart, his kidneys, and it is dead. He is dead. He is dead. And we go to the hospital. We send that by airplane to another hospital, and we put the heart in, and the heart function. And the person that will live 10, 15 years. A Dominican, the first in France to be have an artificial heart was a Dominican, and he lived 15 years after with the new heart. What makes the heart living is not the body. The heart by itself cannot live. The heart lives because he is in a living being, in a living being. And that is the absence. I can have very good organ, I can die. My organ are good. My instrument of seeing, of pumping my blood or heart, so are so good they can be used by others. Transplantation, I have that in my eye here. Okay? So, in fact, the theory of Aristotle and St. Thomas is the best to explain the phenomenon of that, because it is a dualist realism, moderate dualism. Like, it is linked with the knowledge. Knowledge we use body and soul. So we are made with body and soul. And when we die, there is a division between the body and the soul. Okay? In fact, my body, I have now, is not, we saw that with you, in me. For me, it's my 11 body. The cells here are not the same when I was born. I am the same, but my cells renew continually. Okay? And the proof of that is when you have a wound, the wound cicatrized, healed, but they are new cells. Why? Because you eat, because you take medication, because you have a blood, how do you say, blood, when we put the blood from one to the other one?
Transfusion.
Transfusion, a blood transfusion. Okay, page 30. The human death and immortality. Well, that page, those pages are excessively important for you. I think those pages up to the end are, everything is important. And you know, what you do now, you don't study for the exam, you prepare your life. And what you study here, you will use that many times to discuss with people, to teach, to pray for yourself also. So men alone can see his death in advance. Only man can foresee his death. And that is a proof he is also spiritual. He is detached from time and space. He can see the past, he can preview the future. Okay? Because of his ability to know ourselves, to reflect. And the power of reflection is a proof of the spirituality of the human soul. I continue. We know that it is appointed one day us for to die. This is according to our nature that we shall die. And we know our own finitude and contingency. Two words you should put into special place, if you want, explaining death, finitude, and contingency. I think, we are finite. So by nature, my body is composed. I'm not for eternity as a body. And not forever. I don't exist forever. Secondly, I am contingent. I don't depend on myself. I depend on another. That proves that we are finite and that we are contingent. We are contingent because we are born by the action of others. We don't create ourselves. And when we die, we are not the master. Even I want to continue to live 1,000 years, I cannot. There is a doctor in France. You can see that maybe, but it's in French on the internet. He pretends that we can suppress death. The science we arrive at it to suppress death. That's, for me, it's a nonsense. It's impossible. We can prolongate life, of course. Now, men today live twice longer than the time of St. Thomas. When St. Francis of Assisi, all those people, they died 45, 47 years ago. They were old at point. You understand why they marry at 14? Because life was short. Today, 80, 83, certain country, 83. So that means we can prolongate, but we cannot suppress that. Well, why? Because we are finite, and we don't exist by ourselves. So therefore, even I want to continue to live, I will not. continue to live with my body. But that will to continue to live is a proof that we have something else than the body, no? Then we have a soul. And that soul is called to continue after. Okay? So that is a fact which is absolutely certain. You know, what I regret today in our society, we try to hide death. You know, you go to a funeral home, everything is beautiful, and the death is much more beautiful than it was when he was living, or she was living. Oh, oh la la, oh la la, she was never so beautiful. You know, see, we try to music and flowers, and we don't want children attend the death of their grandfather or their parents sometimes. We don't want traumatized children with death. That is a very big error, because that is a part of life. Remember, think about what is the first time in your life you have an experience of death. In my life, I have one that was 5 years old. In Montreal, we had the houses. There was a house here, and I was on the second floor here, and here there was another house here, first floor, second floor. I live here, and here there was I have a girlfriend, 5 years old. She was 6 years old, 1 year older than I, and she was. And a day, my mother said, I saw a car, a white car arrive with a white box. I saw that because I was on the second floor here. I saw that. And my mother said, we have to go to visit. And when I entered at that time, we exposed in the houses, and there was no funeral at all. So we and I saw my friend in the box, not moving. It was my first experience of that. It is necessary, children must know that life is not only fun. Life is also something serious. And they have to come from. I remember when my grandmother died, my little sister, she was 3 years old. And she touched my grandmother. Hey, she's cold. She was experimenting. What is that? It's the same for us, Peter. Sometimes they say, oh no, no children, no children, no children. They will be traumatized. It is necessary. We have to know the reality. Otherwise, we live in a bulb, and we have no contact with the reality, and we make children that have no courage in front of difficulty. We must face those realities. The same. We see in the Subsistence, Lisa lost one cat. After that, he gave her another cat. He was killed by a car. And she was traumatized because she was the cat dying. We have to see that. I remember when a friend, I was a little boy, and he found a dead bird in the courtyard, a dead bird. We were very sad because of that. You know, the experience of that is necessary. In Europe, they are much more attentive to that. For example, November, cemeteries are packed with people, everywhere in Europe. And the children go there, and they have to be, even in some places, they picnic. I saw that in Peru, they picnic in the cemetery with the dead. To be familiar with that. Okay? Life is not only pleasure. Okay? The 2.2, what we know about that? We don't know when, we don't know where, we don't know how. We don't know the time, the place, and the circumstances. And it is much better. Much better not to know that. Because we will be paralyzed. Huh? Imagine those who are condemned to death. They know the 15th of December you will be put on the electric chair. Huh? That is not, it's better not to know. Okay. That has preoccupied a prominent place in the man's psyche. That is a fact, first. And we see that because everywhere in every culture, every civilization, there are monuments, and there are something think about your ancestors, and the cult of ancestors. And Father Ricci arrived in China, and he discovered the cult of ancestors, and that was not accepted. But one of the reasons why they suppressed the recorded Jesus from China, because they adapted the cult of the ancestor. In fact, it is a kind of communion of saints. What is the 1st of November? It's the communion of saints. We are in communion with the death. And what is Halloween just before? Hallow in English means holy. Huh? Hallow be thy name, no? So Halloween was the Halloween, the day, the night before, Halloween. It was a way to exorcise death, to mock death, a way to, when we cannot fight an enemy. Sometimes the arm is mocked, so we cannot fight death, so we mock death. We have masks, etc. That is the reason, no? To defy that, to mock that. But finally, we know the day after, 2 of November, there is no choice. It is a fact. And it is a fact so important that a large part of arts, music, sculpture is about that. Look at if you go to Europe, for example, how many beautiful monuments, huge monuments, sculpted because of the person who is there, in our cemetery, we have that also. Monument, the art, painting. How many painting, how many poem, literature about the problem of that. That means that is something excessively important in life. Life is important, but that is important. It's important, why for us? Because we are sure, as a philosopher, we can be sure that something continue after. And that is universal in the culture. No culture was atheistic. Religion is a part of every culture, and that is also a part of every culture. So now we can study the ancient culture when we visit the tomb of people having lived 5,000 years ago, and we see the way they live. They live by the way they died. Because in the tomb we find food, we find arms, we find clothes, we find jewels, we find sometimes painting. We recognize that the people believe in the afterlife. Okay? So when we speak about that, we have two problems. We have the problem of what happened after, and now what I have to do. Because if there is an after, and the end prepare. You remember when we study causality? The efficient cause, the final cause is good. The final cause is at the end, but it is also at the beginning, no? So if at the end there is that, and after that, that influence the beginning. If you are here today, because there is an end for that. The end is to become a priest, or to become a teacher, to become a master of novices, to become a nurse, etc., a social worker. But that end was at the beginning. When you decided to come here, to study here, you have the end. So that means we cannot think about that without questioning the way we live. Questioning what are our values. In the scripture they say, think about your final end, your death, and you will not commit sin. And people try not to think about that. I give you an example. A day I was in hospital with a member of my family, and I say to that person, he was dying, I say, well, I spoke as a priest, and his wife said, no, don't speak about that. He was dying. Don't speak about that, And another example, my grandmother, she was 1994, she worked up to the last minute. She worked in the garden, and she fell down, and one after she died. And it was in July, the end of July. I said to my grandmother, "Oh, grandmother, it will be a beautiful day to go to heaven on the 15th of August, Assumption." Oh, she said, "Yes, yes." My aunt was furious. We don't speak about that. You remember extreme unction, the sacrament of extreme unction. Huh? It was only when the person was on more death that we called the priest. Why? Because to call the priest was the occasion of the death of the person. Huh? Extreme unction, the last right, at the last minute, the last breath. No? That is, we can't, that is very important. We cannot think about that. We can't think about the way we live today. And that is the reason why many saints, like Saint Borgia, who was one of the first at the court of Spain. He was, when Queen Isabel died, he was asked to accompany her to near Avila, I forget the name, to the place where she was to be buried. But before they opened the tomb, and when she saw the queen, he was so terrified, he decided to become a Jesuit. He said, beauty, everything is birth. Think about that. That is the reason why we cannot separate the thought of after death and the thought about the way we live today. Yes.
Well, did Aristotle believe in some type of final judgment, philosophically?
Final judgment, I don't think we speak about that. That is final judgment is really a Christian.
So what did Aristotle believe happened to the soul that just kind of
he recognized the immortality of the soul, like Plato.
Right.
The Greek. In fact, except the atomist, except the materialist philosopher, all the other Greek philosophers recognized the immortality of the soul.
Okay.
But Socrates, for example, is clear. Or Plato is clear, immortality of the soul. Plato also. But the question of judgment, maybe in the mythology there was a judgment,
Okay.
but I cannot tell. Not the judgment in our perspective. Okay. Next page. So the meaning of life is enveloped of the awareness of death. And number 4, the human death is different from the death of other beings. We spoke about that. 4.1, only man is aware of the future. Only man understands and foresees the death. Only man can think about his own death. And when we pray every day, if you say the rosary 50 times, what you do say? Pray for us sinners now and the hour of our death. Even when you were 6 years old, you said that. Okay. Consequently, our life consciousness continue within it the fact of death. In fact, I am conscious of myself when I think about my death. Because the one who will die, the one who will be after death, it is the same I today. There is a continuity. As a result, we are able to stand back and apart from death. For example, human plans for death. We can prepare our death. We go to a notary and we write a will. No? We say, I want that. Someone, they prepare the liturgy. Of course, someone, they do that when they are old. But someone, they are testament. Or you take care of the tomb of your grandparent, your parents. No? And when you do that, it is a way to reflect on that. On that. You cannot go to a cemetery without asking questions. When I preside the funeral, most of the time I say that, we cannot participate in the funeral without thinking about our own death. Okay. 5, universal aspect, respect and reverence for death. Now that I spoke already about that. We have a great respect in all culture about the dead. For example, in Rome we have a famous the Pantheon, where we put in Paris, for example, the Pantheon where all the or illustrious French men and women in France, they are there in the same old church, we call the Saint Genevieve Church, called Pantheon. You go to Washington, Lincoln's Memorial. You go to Rome, to any country, you have the tombs of saints, the relics of saints. Why we respect? We believe something after, etc. We have a lot of, even our family have the picture of our parents, grandparents. Today there is a tendency to find a genealogy. And there is some organization in the United States, you can pay $200, you send a little bit of your saliva on the Q-tip, and you send that, you pay, and they give you your genealogy. They say you are from that race with, and people, they go to cemetery. You have some program on television, only for that, genealogy, to find your, who are your ancestors, where they are coming from, etc. Because we are linked with the past. What we are depends on what they were. Think about that. We should be very grateful to our ancestors. What we are depends on what they were. Sometimes people are, and some people are in inclination to despise the ancestors. They say they were stupid. Now we have television. They didn't have television. We have now, yes, but if we have television, because of them. Because of them, what we possess today, it is the fruit of their research, the fruit of their work. And don't forget, those who will come after, of course, for Christian support, the future depends on us also. Okay. Sometimes the tendency, the hedonism, what is hedonism? Hedonism is to take pleasure today and don't bother with others and don't bother with the future today. Carpe diem in Latin. Those who like Latin, carpe diem. Take, enjoy, carpe. Harvest today, take today, pick up today, the fruit today. Not tomorrow, today. And don't bother the other. So, that ecology is a reaction against that ecology, the administration of nature. Okay? So it is a fact, a very fact. But even if we are with many, for example, when my father died, all the family were around. Oh, everyone. I came from Africa by accident. I was there 2 times. But my father died. He died alone. We died alone. That is a personal reality. Even if you make a pact of suicide for 2, I die alone. I am alone in my birth. I am alone in my death. I am naked at my birth. I am almost naked on my death. That means I am totally. That is something important. It's important not to be near those who are dying. Because when we die, it's the same for an hospital. No? You go to someone who is suffering, who is suffering. We are around the bed, but we don't suffer. She is or he is alone to suffer so much. But we must be around to help, to sustain, to accompany, etc. That is a very important role for priests and nurses and doctors, to be attentive to those who are dying, the respect of those who die. They need our help. 32. A man has a particular interest, as H-A-S, in the phenomenon of death. Why? We saw that. Why? Because for us that is not an end. Or although maybe we know there is something with surety, or maybe we say maybe there is something. Even those who say there is nothing, I am not sure. I am not sure that in their heart they are not saying maybe there is something after that. You know? Why? Because we have a desire to continue to live. It is in my nature to continue to know and to love. Huh? Okay. Number 6. So that is an integral part of the human condition. I already spoke about that. That serve the set parameters, measure within which the meaning of human life can be evaluated. That means when we want to evaluate the life of someone, we have to speak about death. In fact, normally we write the biography of people when they are dead. We know a person only, we cannot know a person when he is living or she is living. We can know a person really, not totally, but really after his death. Because is the reason why in Canada, I don't know United States, in Canada we never give the name of a street before the person died. We wait, and when the person is dead, we give the name of the street, not before. We never know. Maybe that person is a mafioso who's that we measure we measure things about in regard with that. Okay, that is a parameter. We cannot measure the value of a man. And the same, the courage of a soldier is not measured when he was walking on the street in New York, Times Square. The measure of a soldier is the courage in front of death. Those who go now to Africa to work for those who have Ebola, why they are courageous? Because they are confronting death. They risk their life, They risk their life. And Jesus said something that is Bible, not philosophy. There is no greater proof of love than to give his life for others. They need to be able to pass through death. Pass through. And I continue here. Everything in the square, being judged at the standpoint of view, shows its true value. Vanity of vanities, money, beauty, popularity, power, prestige, comfort. All that disappear. It is interesting, sometimes in the newspaper, in the magazine, they give you two pictures. Or they give you a series of pictures, a young woman, young man, handsome man, that's it. And after that, they give you a series of pictures, old people, old men, old women. And they say, try to match them. To match them. That makes reflect. In 1945, and now in 2010. Match them. That means everything changed the value. And sometimes people are billionaires and they give, I'm ready to give all my money to be healed from that cancer or to continue to live, because life is most important than all the rest. So number 7, that must be explained, otherwise we cannot understand ourselves. And philosophers reflect on that. I already spoke about that. Now, page 33, future, present are bound. In fact, our present is necessarily bound with our future. Your present here is bound with your future. If you are here, because you prepare the future. No? In fact, every action we do is this for a future. You eat. It's a present action, you eat. But it is for the future, for your survival, no? That means in every action we have a motive. And the motive is in the future. Normally, we prepare for another thing. No? Okay? So many great philosophers question the future. Especially, I will say the modern philosopher, existentialists, they are struck by the idea, the problem of death. Either death has a meaning or either death has a non-meaning. If there is nothing after death, death has no meaning. If death has no meaning, what is the consequence of that? Life has no meaning. If death has no meaning, life has no meaning. Alors, if death has no meaning and life has no meaning, conclusion, let us suicide. Life has no meaning because There is nothing at the end. What give a meaning to your studies here? Because you have an end. Huh? When the young people marry, there is a meaning to their marriage, to create a family, to have children, to prepare the future. And that is contrary to the mentality of our time. Our time is too late. I know some young, they are no more young, they're 30, 35 now. And a couple, they are not married, they have one child. And the wife wants to have another child. But the husband said no. Why? Because we will not be able to go to the restaurant, to travel, Today, pleasure for today, hedonism. Our society is here, don't forget that. Our advertising is for now. Immortality of the soul now. So if there is nothing, life has no meaning. If there is something after that, life has a meaning. Okay? One of the philosophers who spoke very well about that is Immanuel Kant. Kant, which is a great philosopher. Kant is a great philosopher. He's a great influence today. I would say Kant has a greater influence in the world than St. Thomas. St. Thomas has influence in the Catholic Church, but if you go outside, Kant is very, very important. He was a Lutheran. He believed in God. He proved the existence of God from the duty. We saw that in philosophy. So the duty, I am obliged to act according as a human being. Therefore, there must be something after that. A judgment, immortality, freedom, existence of God. All that from the fact I have to live a moral life. So the immortality of the soul is a preoccupation for every. No philosopher, no serious philosopher can deny the fact of death and can avoid the question of immortality. Either he will accept or either he will reject. Okay? So after that, the human soul survives. The body disappears. But in 9.2, the proof of that. Well, the proof here, I have not detailed. They are very succinct. We have to refer what we studied before, the theory of knowledge and the notion of freedom. Okay? So because the act of human intellection is intrinsically independent of the physical world, when we abstract, here in fact we make allusion to abstraction and universalization. When we abstract, it is the agent intellect that detach from the phantasm, and we arrive to a concept which is totally detached from time and space. It is a spiritual. Our concept is spiritual. If it is spiritual, it is immortal. It cannot be corrupted. Okay? A reflection, reflection, the power of reflection. Only man has the power, and that power is not material. Another thing also, we see that is the power of the will to dominate our senses, sense appetite. We have a sense appetite, we can control, we can master, and that is not by the body. On the contrary, the soul, the fact the soul is able to control the body is a proof that she is not the body. She is totally dependent on the body. Of course, we need senses, like I need the chalk to write, but it is not the senses or the chalk that make me think. I think because I have a spiritual power. Immaterial, do two things here. Immaterial and independent of physical world. What makes immaterial? My cat also has a soul that is immaterial. My cat has a soul that is immaterial. But it is not independent. Independent of matter, of the body, and independent in his activity, in his being. So we know the soul is immortal from the power of abstraction, from the power of reflection, from the power of volition. Yes, brother.
I'm sorry, Father, I got confused. Did you say the soul is totally dependent of the body? Independent.
Intrinsically.
Intrinsic.
That means in its essence,
Okay.
the soul does not depend on the body. Like intrinsically, you don't depend on your pencil to write. But you depend on your pencil extrinsically. It is extrinsic to you. Okay?
Thank
Next page. 9.7. The human intellective acts depend merely extrinsically, not intrinsically on the physical world. That means the physical world, for example, the phantasm, is the, remember that, the instrumental efficient cause. But your intellect, your agent intellect, is the principal efficient cause. Like now I'm right on the board, I am the principal efficient cause, but the chalk is the instrumental. The chalk is outside of me, is extrinsic to me. So the power of writing is intrinsic to me. Okay? The power of, for example, you read, you must have eyes for that. Do your eyes read? Yes. But in fact, who reads? You. With your eyes. So your eyes, your body is a tool to allow your mind to work. Is a tool. That means we are spiritual because we have both here. Your cat is not spiritual, he is immaterial. His soul is material. But he has no activity independent from his sense knowledge. His knowledge is reduced to sense knowledge. In fact, what we are doing here, we are recalling all the proof we studied during the semester. And many times I say, that is a proof, that is a proof. And we cannot not come again on all that. But we can summarize. Abstraction, reflection, volition, the will. Prove that we have a super spiritual activity. Spiritual activity. One of the stronger for me is the volition. By the will, you can control your body. Your body is hungry, is thirsty. You say no. You will fast and you will not drink. You can do that, no? Okay. So the act of understanding is immaterial and intrinsically independent. Number 10. So intrinsic incorruptibility. The form is not corruptible because it is spiritual. And the human form, that means the soul, is the fact that, we know the subject through the activities. And we know the activities through the object. So when we have an object totally detached from matter, for example, the concept, or the act of willing, the free act, that activity manifests that the subject here is the same nature. We produce activities and we attain object of the same nature. But we cannot know first the subject. We know the object, we know the activities, through that we know the subject. So if we have spiritual activities, if we have attained spiritual object, like the concept, we have spiritual activity, abstraction, reflection, volition, we can affirm that the subject is also spiritual. It's not my body, it's my soul. My soul is spiritual. And the consequence of that is immortality. So here, extrinsic, for example, you break a glass. The form of the glass is broken at the same time the glass is broken. The form disappears with the glass. It is not independent from the glass. It's the same for your cat, for the flower. The form of the cat, the form of the flower are linked with the body. They cannot detach from the body. We can detach from the body. Why? Because we have spiritual activity. Spiritual activity. And we know that through progress, for example, through organization, etc. On page 34, 9.3 at the top. So, in fact, we are spiritual for two reasons. We are spiritual because we are immaterial and because we are independent. Well, if I am immaterial, I am simple. And the soul of your cat is simple also. But the soul of your cat is not independent. So the immortality of the soul depends on the fact the soul is not composed, because it's not composed cannot be immaterial. What is composed? Material. Him, not composed, not material. So the soul is simple. But it's not enough, because the soul of any living is simple also. So what is the difference between your cat? It is your activity are independent from your body. That means you are right to some activity that transcends your body. For example, only the fact that you can prepare the future, that means that you are above the actual material reality. Okay? Because as intrinsically independent of matter, the soul does not rely on body for its existence. That means, in the case of man, the soul does not depend on matter to exist. To act does not depend on the body for its activities. And you know what is the source of activities? It's the nature, the essence, nature. So the nature of man, the soul does not depend on the body. Therefore, the soul is independent of the body. Independent, but during the life, they are substantially united. But after that, the soul continues to be what it was. The soul continues to be simple and independent from the body in his activities. Therefore, if the activity of the soul are independent from the body, the nature of the soul is independent from the body. You know, we know always the subject from the activities. So we start from the activities, spiritual activities, abstraction, reflection, volition, etc. We arrive to affirm that the nature of the soul is also independent from the body. Therefore, it continues to exist. It is not decomposed. That is the foundation, rational foundation for the immortality. That paragraph is very, very important. Aquinas' technical term for describing this characteristic of the human soul is that the soul is subsistence. What is subsistence? That means a substance having existence. That is subsistence. So the soul is subsistent, that means it is a substance having existence. A substance, that means my I and the power of my soul, the will and the intellect are in my I, are in my substance. So the substance continues to exist and to exist with its power, don't forget. That means I continue to be able to know and to love after that. Because I cannot separate my spiritual power from my I, my substance, my substance, my I. So my I continue to know, continue to will. And that is very important, because if there is no more I disappear in the unique soul of the universe. That's the theory of pantheists. We disappear in the nirvana for the Buddhists. No, I continue to be myself. Because I am myself, I have a responsibility of my action. In that answer your question, I can be judged. Even at the philosophical point of view, and Kant was very clear on that, we will be judged. We have a desire, a necessity, a need for justice. And there is no justice on earth. When you listen to the song all the time that comes, the wicked are prosperous and the just is suffering. It is a necessity for us to have some justice. And to accomplish that justice, we must continue to be I. So I give my individuality after my death. Why? Because the form was the form of this body. And that my form continued to be an individual form. That's very, very important. Because if you accept that, we fall into pantheism. And we have no judgment, no punishment, no reward, no heaven, no hell, nothing. We are in the melting pot. The human soul is unique and distinct from other life. We spoke about that. Okay. The human is subsistent at page 34 at the bottom, 9.6. Very, very important. Contrary, the human soul subsists within itself. That means the life of the soul is from within. Don't forget. If I have immanent activity now, it is because the principle is in my soul, no? And that principle of life after that continues to be a principle of life. So what is the characteristic of life is activities. What are the activities of the soul? The intellect and the will. Huh? So I continue to think. I hope we never finish to do and never finish to love. Otherwise eternity will be boring. Huh? And while the soul exists as the form of the body, the human soul does not inherently depend on the body. Thus the human soul is capable of existence alone. In page 36, therefore, to affirm that the human soul is a subsistent, it is simply to deny that the human soul either is intrinsically corruptible or extrinsically corruptible, which is the same as affirming that the soul is immortal. Another argument given by St. Thomas, the human soul knows being apart from material condition. Human soul grasps abstract. In fact, it is what I told you just before, abstraction, reflection, the power of reflection. And 11.2, because of our intellect knows being absolutely apart, there is a natural desire to exist always. So no such a desire for immortality will not occur were it not grounded on reality. If I have a desire for immortality, there is a reason for that. We call that the principle of sufficient reason. And if in every man on earth, we go to the pyramid, you visit the tomb, there is a desire for immortality. Every man wants to continue to exist. We have a desire for that. That desire is not on vain. There is a reason for that. And the reason for that is that we are spiritual, we are immortal. Immortal in our soul. So the manner, after that, they will separate. We live in a separate way. If we know, but we cannot know as we know now, we know directly. We have no senses. So if we know, it will be by communication from mind to mind. When I will meet St. Thomas or Aristotle, or St. Augustine or St. Thomas, we communicate mind to mind. We have no mouth, we have no but we communicate. Hey, when you talk with Jesus, when you pray, what do? You communicate mind to mind, no? It is a spiritual activity. Already, we are living, already we live a little bit like we live in heaven. When in faith you communicate with God, with Virgin Mary, you communicate mind to mind. Yes?
I'll ask you after classes and we're done.
Okay. And finally, the last paragraph on individuality, I already explained that. We continue the form of the body, and because of that, the resurrection, the dogma of resurrection, is very fitting well with Aristotle, but not fitting well with Plato. And St. Paul tried to explain that, you remember, when he said Jesus resurrected, they say, go another day to tell us. They were not able to accept the resurrection, because the body was not a good thing for them. And for us, it is normal that the soul be united to a body. The rest, I don't know. Totalitaire, alitaire. Totally otherwise. We don't know. Okay. I hope now you are not too tired of thinking about that.
So going to use flour, right, Father?
I'll continue to use flower.
Yeah.